Welcome to Legacy Builders Live with Bryan Dulaney. Today is May 5th, 2025. I'm excited to be with you today. We have some great guests coming up. We have a guest speaker coming on at the end of this episode, and I have a hot seat, as I always do every week, where we dive into their funnels, their offers, their acquisition strategies, and really ultimately just providing feedback for them to take their businesses to the next level so they can make more impact and make more income doing it. So first off, I'm going to share my takeaways from an event that I was at last week called Expert Summit. And it was an event held and hosted by Anik Singhal that I was privileged to and honored to speak into that room of about 225 entrepreneurs. All of them experts, all of them had to meet the threshold of doing at least six figures, multiple six figures. There were 7-figure, 8-figure, and 9-figure experts in the room. But it was an absolutely awesome experience. And so today I wanted to share some of the highlights from the event, some of my biggest takeaways from Expert Summit, okay? So the first one was from Anik himself, and he shared, what was funny was we kicked off the show or the event with Anik. He gave the first talk, then there was lunch, then the second talk, and then I was up at bat, right? What was really cool is that Anik and I never talked before the event, didn't share anything, but our talks lined up perfectly. I mean, it was like so harmonious, and just worked out that way. And so it's funny. So he shared this thing called the ALBR method, which first off is acquisition, second is liquidation, third is back end, and fourth is recurring, okay? So let's break this down. What does that mean, right? Well, number one is, what's your acquisition method, right? Now, for him and for I, we both use low ticket buyer funnels as our acquisition model, okay? So what does that mean? That means that we put out offers anywhere in the range from $10, free plus shipping books and stuff like that, up to $100, right? And so we put those forward in the marketplace and use that to acquire buyers. Because like I always say, a buyer is 40 times more valuable than a lead, right? So what would you rather build? Would you rather build a lead database, or would you rather build a buyer database? Now, of course, we build both, right? If we're doing webinars, we're doing challenges, a lot of times those are going to be free. Sometimes they're going to be paid. I'm working on one right now with my wife that I can't wait to launch. I'm so excited about it. It'll be a paid challenge, and it'll be probably a 3-day paid challenge with a VIP day 4, where we just do Q&A and go deeper on anyone's questions as they go through the funnel. But we love low-ticket buyer funnels. And in fact, my talk was how to use low-ticket $7 to $47 buyer funnels to attract high-ticket clients, okay? And I made that pivot probably about 2 years ago. I started to see some trends in the marketplace, and I started to pivot in that direction, which is, we have 3 books, working on a 4th one with my wife, all about high-ticket selling and selling expertise. And then we've got playbooks. And so we've got a variety of these. There's like 10 different playbooks that we have that we're releasing. We already have the webinar playbook out in motion, the movement builder playbook out in motion. The next one at bat is the challenge playbook. And then we've got the wealthy entrepreneur playbook. And then we got the DM selling playbook. So excited about some of these playbooks that we're bringing forward. But the first model here is acquisition, okay? Acquisition. So a buyer's 40 times more valuable than a lead. So I would encourage you, those of you that are listening, start thinking about what can you put out into the marketplace that people can pay you a little bit on the front end, okay? And then the second part is liquidation, right? And that's to recover the ad spend that's outgoing as fast as humanly possible, right? The whole purpose of a front-end buyer funnel is to self-liquidate your ad spend. Because imagine if your back end, your higher ticket offers, have 0 acquisition costs like ours, right? I have 0 acquisition costs in my agency because my low ticket front-end buyer funnels that again range from $10 up to $100 self-liquidates all the traffic that we spend on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and even pay affiliates, right? So that's the name of the game as an expert in this industry, that remember, is growing to $1 trillion a year by 2028, right? As of 2019, okay, that it was already 400 million a day back in 2019, and it's growing by leaps and bounds, right? So you definitely don't want to miss the wave. We're in the middle of this wave catching steam, okay? We're not that far away from this becoming $1 trillion a year industry, okay? So you're at the right place at the right time. Number three here is back end, right? And your back end is not only where you make all your profit, but it's where you make almost all of your impact, right? And just think about it, right? Someone buys a book. How many people actually read it, right? How many people actually implement what they read, right? It's very small, right? The statistic is nuts. It's like 10% of people who buy business books actually read past the first chapter, right? And that's terrible, right? That's why we have to have other offers, courses, right? Workshops, masterminds, agency offers, coaching, consulting, like all these other things that can really serve people. And I found in my career of doing this for over 18 years now that your high ticket offers not only where you're going to make your most income, but it's where you're going to make your most profit, okay? Most impact. And so as experts, right, people that have knowledge, that have skills, that have expertise, that can really bless and serve others, we owe it to ourselves and the market to have high ticket offers, okay? So your back end is where you maximize your customer value, and then recurring builds that safety net, right? Where you can make $10,000 a month, $100,000 a month, $1 million a month, whatever it might be for you that you're driving towards, right? But that gives you the ability to, not worry about constantly selling and bringing people into your world all the time, right? And so this was his model for experts. And then he talked about vertical selling, which really simply is, you have an entry offer, you have your mid-ticket offers, and you have your back-end offers, right? So that's like my webinar playbook, then leads to my webinar course, then leads to my agency, right? That'd be vertical selling, okay? My challenge playbook has my challenge course, then leads to my agency, right? That's vertical selling versus horizontal selling, okay? Another thing that I took away from Expert Summit was freedom comes from one word, and that one word is exit. Now, many of us think, exit is like, we're going to sell our company, we're going to exit, we're going to get a big multiple, and we're going to go retire off into sunset, right? But it doesn't have to be that. It could be, right? You could be building something to sell one day, right? Or it could be exiting by delegating, right? Like think about the things that you did in the beginning of your business don't have to be the things that you are doing now in your business. In fact, if you want to take it to the next level, 10x, 100x your business, it's likely not going to be by yourself. It's likely going to be by a team. It's going to be by other people, right? Russell Brunson said, it's not about what or how, it's about who's in your corner helping you. He's like, I didn't build ClickFunnels to be a $100 million a year company by doing it all myself. He said, I have a great team around me. And that team was 400 people, right? No one successful does it all themselves and wears all the hats, right? Elon Musk can wear a lot of hats, but he doesn't wear all the hats, right? So that's important, okay? Delegating. Delegating will free you up to do the things that you really want to do and really what you're the best in the world at doing, right? As an expert, the one thing that you should be consistently doing is creating and producing content for your social media, for your advertising, for your funnels, for your fulfillment, right? Like that's one of the number one things people always ask me, Bryan, what is it that I should be doing once we launch? I said, well, you should be thinking about and creating and constantly creating new content for your audience to consume and get value from, right? You shouldn't be sending emails. You shouldn't be integrating your technology. You should be creating content to bring more people into your world, and you should be selling your offers, and you should be doing some level of fulfillment depending on the level of offer, right? Whether it's do it yourself, done with you, or done for you, right? So that's your lane, right? Customer service can handle emails, right? Fulfillment can handle fulfillment packages and orders and shipping, right? An assistant can handle your DMs, right? There's a lot of other things that you don't need to be doing as an expert. In fact, you shouldn't be doing unless you want to stay stuck or stay small, okay? All right, the next big takeaway here from Expert Summit was Onyx big aha takeaways from 2024. And so the first one was A players versus the best players. And I would agree with that. Okay, I would agree with that sentiment, right? People talk about hiring A players, right? And while that's better than hiring B or C players, right? Onyx looks through it the lens of how can I hire the best players, right? In fact, that's how I built my agency. I built my agency by finding the people that are best in the world at one thing. And that's all they do. They do that one thing, like branding or video production or copywriting or funnel development or technology, right? I found the best players and then I incentivized the best players. You think about it, at the end of the day, the best players, they want freedom too, right? Just like all of us, right? We're all driven by freedom, right? So we do more of what we want, more of what we love to do, right? For the best players, those people are motivated just like you, right? You don't want to be motivated. I never wanted to build a business where I had a bunch of people that punched the time clock, right? Employees, right? That mindset is just not good for performance and it's not good for growth. Now you might have a few people that are on your team that are employees, right? There's nothing wrong with that. They're not going to be doing the high performance tasks that you need to really scale your brand to the next level. So he incentivized his A players typically with profit share, right? With performance bonuses. That's how I operate as well, right? Because I believe that when people have skin in the game, they're more vested, right? So that was a good takeaway. Don't look for A players, look for the best players. Find the way you can hire the best of the best and put them on your brand, your project, your campaigns, and you'll see a night and day difference. Number two was, he said, I suck at most things, right? And what he was saying is that, you can't do everything. You can't be the jack of all trades because you become the master of none, right? So find the things that you love to do, that you're the best in the world at. Only focus on those things and delegate the rest, right? Remember, that's another way to exit your business. Number three, innovation has an expiration date, right? All innovation has an expiration date, okay? So take that into mind, right? That innovation has an expiration date. Number four is allow yourself to think bigger, okay? Allow yourself to think bigger. When I wrote our third book, How to Build, Launch, Scale One Funnel, One Offer that generates $1 million in a month, the objective behind that book was to help people to expand their thinking, to think beyond what is possible for them, right? Most people come to me and they say, Bryan, I want to build $1 million a year business. I'm like, great. Typically, I find myself, when I'm in my consulting days with clients, mapping out the funnels and the offers and the acquisition strategy, I'm typically getting them to think 10 times bigger than where they're currently thinking, right? And so put yourself in rooms where other people are thinking bigger. That's why I can't recommend Expert Summit enough, right? There's a room full of curated people that are playing the game at a higher level, right? I have never gone to an event or a mastermind or a workshop or something like Expert Summit and not at least gleaned one nugget and met one new person that can help take my business to the next level, right? So find the rooms of where your people are hanging and find yourself a way to get there, okay? And number five was distribution is the key to growth. And I would concur with that statement. And what that means is JV partner, JV relationships, affiliates, partnerships, right? I'll give you 2 ways that I'm implementing that in my life. In 2012, I had 1,000 websites. Google changed their algorithm and they introduced the first animal, panda. And it was an absolute bloodbath. We lost 1,000 websites in 10 days, 100 sites a day, boom, boom, boom. A $750,000 asset was demolished in 10 days by Google. And at that moment, I said, I'm never going to rely on free traffic again. But that belief actually held me back. I was golfing with a buddy of mine, David, last week or 2 weeks ago. And he said, hey man, have you ever thought about really leveraging affiliate relationships? I was like, yeah, I've done a few things, right? I've been an affiliate for others, but I've had a few affiliates that have asked to promote what we do. And I said, but I haven't really put much energy or attention on it because after 2012, when we lost 1,000 websites, I said, I'm never going to rely on free traffic again. I need to master paid traffic. And that's what I did. I just mastered paid traffic. And it's been really, not necessarily easy, but it's been like the go-to strategy, right? You can flip the ads on, turn the ads off. It's predictable. I can scale up and down as I want, right? And I don't have to manage the relationships like when having an affiliate program or having being a joint venture, person, right? And he said to me, well, what if I did it for you? What if I was your JV broker? I can go line up a bunch of affiliates. I have relationships with a lot of great people. How about I be your joint venture broker? I was like, that's a great idea. Let's talk about that, right? Let's find a way for you to win by introducing great people to us that can promote what it is that we do, right? So think about that for yourself. Another way that we've implemented partnerships is I have this series of playbooks, right? I've got the webinar playbook, the movement builder playbook, the challenge playbook, the wealthy entrepreneur playbook, the DM selling playbook. I've got 5 other ones: high ticket selling, events, masterminds, a bunch of other ones that are in the can. They're being cooked up as I speak right now. And so the way I leveraged partnerships is I went to Ryan and I said, hey, Ryan, we helped him to build a $100 million online brand, leveraging his expertise and serving others online, right? And I said to him, hey man, I think it would be awesome if we partnered and created a playbook together. He's like, yeah, that's a great idea. So we came together and we brought together our superpowers, mine in the world of making more online and his in the world of keeping what you make, protecting it, and being able to multiply what you make, right? And we came together and we brought our forces together and we're launching the Wealthy Entrepreneurs Playbook, right? So distribution is a key to growth, right? You can do it through partnership, right? 2 is always better than 1. Whenever I do a webinar with 2, it does better. Whenever I do a challenge with 2, it does better, right, than 1, okay? The same goes for your campaigns. So find a way that you can either integrate affiliates or a joint. JV brokers are great because they can just line up people for you, right? Like I don't want to spend my time, energy, attention going out and getting affiliate relationships, right? That's like a part-time job, right? But there are people out there like David who are JV brokers. They already have relationships with a lot of people and they can just tee it up, right? And then you just make it easy for the affiliates to promote, right? Give them the email swipe files, give them the banners, give them the social posts, give them all the assets and make it easy. As an affiliate, right? Over the years, I started in this game as an affiliate. And so the biggest recommendation as a product owner, product creator, when you have an affiliate program, make it easy on your affiliates. Affiliates are typically lazy, right? They don't want to create anything. They just want to upload and post. They just want to push send on that email, okay? So those were 5 big ahas from him. Then Anik talked about the Pentagon of scale. And he talked about you have, number 1, your offer stack, right? That's your front end, that mid-ticket and high-ticket offers, right? That's the offer stack in your business, right? Then he talked about number 2, converting, okay, which is optimizing that buyer journey. Number 3, he talked about acquisition, which is targeted traffic generation, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, X, affiliates, right? Like you have the acquisition model of where you're going to get your customers. Number 4 was monetization, okay? And number 5 was the right team, right? Having the right team in the right roles, okay? I've seen campaigns that absolutely flop, okay? They rewire that team dynamic and the campaign crushes it, right? So sometimes it's the team, right? Not necessarily the funnel or the offer, right? And the thing I like to talk about here when he talks about the Pentagon of scale is really the dance, right? The dance between your front end and your back end, right? Which I covered in my talk. He didn't cover that, but I think it's so important to talk about how does your front end, meaning your social, your content, right, your ads, how does that tie in and dance between your back end and your front end, right? Most people that I have found, even guys that are doing 8 figures and in that range from 8 to 9, this dance is wonky. It's weird, especially the guys that are 6 figures and 7, right? There's a dance that happens once you break through that 7, get into that 8-figure level where you need to have your systems wired where your front and your back are flowing together like a well-orchestrated symphony, not like an awkward school dance. All right, last thing here, I want to share Anik's offer. So every event, of course, you have an offer. The one thing he didn't have, which I was surprised, was a price anchor. I always talk about the importance of having a price anchor. I think it's vital for selling, whether you're going to sell, your core offer. I always talk about it's important to have a price anchor. He didn't have that this time. At least I didn't hear it. I was also sucked out of the room a lot by people who wanted to talk to me after I gave my presentation. But this was his $30,000 offer. Okay, and so I'm going to share what that is. I thought it was a great offer and a no-brainer because he made it in payment plans. So $5,500 a month for 3 months and then $1,500 a month ongoing, right? If you do the math on it, it's $30,000 a year. And what I like about it is there's several features to this offer, okay? And remember, an offer, you have your features, your benefits, right? And they have to they're married together, right? So I'm just going to drop some of the features of the offer, not necessarily get into the benefits of the offer because I'm not presenting his offer right now. But I want you to hear about an offer that crushed, and he certainly crushed at that event. I'm not sure the final numbers, but I know that it crushed because it was a no-brainer, right? Remember, I always say when you make an offer, you want it to be irresistible. You want it to be a dumbass offer, right? A Dow, right? That when your audience hears it, they think, I got to be a dumbass to say no, right? And I believe he did that. So number one was expert model workshops. And these are essentially workshops working through those 5 pillars of the Pentagon of scale, right? So that's one of the features. Number 2 is media exposure. Him actually promoting you to his social and his audience, right? That one thing on that list is worth the 30K, right? Like for me, it's like I can do a webinar promotion with Onik and he'll promote to his audience. I'll sell my offer and recoup the $30,000 investment in a webinar, right? Okay. So that was number 2. Number 3 was a speaker platform. So a platform where you can get podcast opportunities, webinar opportunities. You can basically book stage opportunities, right? So basically a marketplace of opportunities to get your message out in a bigger way. I thought that was great. Number 4 was a quarterly scale plan. So 4 one-on-one mentorship sessions with his team on diagnosing where you are to where you want to go and then bridging that gap along the journey throughout the year, okay? Next was a private community. Always important to be building a private community. I don't care what you're selling, whether it's a $30,000 thing or a $1,000 thing, right? I would encourage you to build a movement, a community, a tribe of raving fans and movement of people that are growing, right? So that's the next one. The next list was VIP connections. So facilitated high value introductions, right? So you think about it, right? It's a $30,000 mastermind or offer, right? His team's going to identify, hey, John and Bob, you need to connect, or Mary and Sue, you need to connect, right? So facilitated high value introductions. Another thing that's worth its weight in gold because just one affiliate promotion within the group could pay off that $30,000 investment like that, right? Next was a team training portal for 5 users so you can put your team into the system and have them trained on the same material that you're learning, right? So that your team doesn't get left behind. Okay, that was cool. And then exotic meetups like a cruise and other meetups throughout the year where members get together, collaborate, mastermind, facilitate that event kind of structure outside the typical event environment. Okay, last thing before we jump into the hot seat here is one of the things that's really great that Onik did was one of my colleagues, she recommended, I don't know, probably like 6 months ago, that Onik would start a fund. She introduced this idea like, hey, could you grow faster if people invested in your business? And he thought about it and he's like, well, yeah, I think so. So he started an AI company that would acquire other AI companies, right? So think about it as like a conglomerate of AI companies. He posted on Facebook, and just from one Facebook post to his audience, he raised over $2 million. Boom. Now, why is that, right? Well, his audience has more trust in him as the marketer than they do themselves a lot of times, right? So think about that pivot though. I mean, he was able to raise 2 million, and now I think it's up over 5, last time I heard, in his crowdfunding company, which he brought to his audience. So if you have an audience right? That knows, likes, trusts you, buys your offers, right? You might want to think about using other people's money, right? Robert Kiyosaki infamously coined OPM, right? Other people's money. You can grow a lot faster through OPM, right? One of my clients, Dutch, he was holding a mastermind. And at this mastermind, he was teaching people how to invest in real estate. He was teaching about auctions, and he was talking about buying land and buying farms and golf courses. And he was talking about all these different things as it relates to real estate investing. And one time, this was years ago, he had a guy in the audience raise his hand and said, hey, this is great. Why don't you put your money where your mouth is and let us invest in what you're investing in? And that gave him an idea. I can grow myself with my own capital only so fast. What if I recruited and engaged my audience to invest with me and give them a piece of the action, right? Because of that epiphany moment for him, he was able to raise over $100 million and acquire $2 million worth of assets, right? That would have taken him a lot longer if he didn't enroll his audience in being able to invest in him, his vision and his process and his system and his results, right? So I would encourage you, as you hear this, think about, what would you do with an extra $1 million, $5 million, $10 million, right? Crowdfunding, you can do 5 million and then you have to go to Reg D, then you can raise up to 75 million. But imagine what you could do with just an extra $1 million, right? You could spend a lot more money on advertising to grow and scale your brand, right? So even if you're not thinking like, oh, there's no way I don't need 5 million or I don't need 75 million, think about what you could do if you have an audience, right, that knows, likes, and trusts you, buys what you have to offer. Maybe your key to growth and scale is giving them a way to invest in you while you take your business to the next level, you help them win too, right? So those are my takeaways from Onyx Expert Summit. That was an absolute blast. All right, now let's dive in to a hot seat segment with my man Dominic. So Dominic is going to be here with us shortly. To give you a little context on Dominic, Dominic runs a PR media company. And so he gets people featured on places like CNN, places like Fox, places like MSN, right? He gets people placed in media, right? So people come to him, they're looking to get more exposure, they want to get on TV. That's what Dominic does. So let's dive in. Dominic, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Brian. I've been really enjoying the show so far, so great to see you again.
Great to see you as well, man. So let's dive in. We've got 15 minutes, so let's dive in. Tell me, we've spent some time together, which was great, but tell me some of the things that are challenging for you at the moment, or things that you'd like to work through.
Yeah, so thanks for this opportunity. So one of the things we're seeing is, we have a service where some people often don't realize that you can hire a service like ours to get booked on TV. Mm-hmm. So we work with really high-level founders, even growth stage founders. We have CEOs of established companies, very diverse range of clientele. Anyone who really has the aspiration to become a thought leader. And like you say, help them get booked on major TV news channels, major podcasts, and other opportunities, maybe on stage and at speaking events as well. Yeah. Now, the challenge that we're having is twofold. And I can share these with you very quickly. So the first is for our own business. So we've really built our business the old-fashioned way. So making connections through like LinkedIn or networking events, referrals. And I just feel there's a much smarter way to scale the company. Now we have proof of concept. We have some amazing track records and success stories. The other piece is, how can we then in turn do that for our clients? Because many of our clients, they get booked on TV and say, this is great. But as you've just shown, there's so many ways that they can level up their service and really 10x it through, digital, marketing channels and other methods as well. So that's what I wanted to bring forward today. Yeah. Not just to help us, but how we can help our clients as well.
Yeah. So you've done it. So far, you've went the belly to belly route, right? One to one, right? And it's great. I mean, you've built a great business by leveraging LinkedIn and leveraging direct selling, right, through direct messaging, right? But there's a lot more. There's a lot of other ways in which you can, scale your business with paid traffic, which I'm a big fan of, as you know, and funnels, right, and other offers outside of your service. You did though, Dominic, what I recommend, which is first start as an expert. Start with your highest ticket offer, right? Focus on producing the best outcomes and results you can for others, and dial that sucker in, right? Like dial that process in so it's rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And then once you're ready to really go one to many in a bigger way, then start doing stuff like producing a book or doing a webinar or a challenge, right? Doing these lower ticket things that you can put out in the world and reach more people, right? So that's what I would say would be the evolution of what you do is paid traffic versus just going the slow path, which is social posting and direct selling.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we've had clients where we've run tests for where they've taken this really high credibility content. So, the appearance of them being featured on either a lifestyle show or on a news program, and then they've ran a meta campaign. And what they found is, just to give you one example, we have a client where he was paying $3.50 a click, just to get someone to click through to his website. But when they run that video and focus on views, they can get a view for like 60 cents. And then what they do is they track the engagement level of that view, and anyone that watches 25, 30, 40% or more, now they have a warm list of people to retarget to. And so we're just scratching the surface with this, but they've been able to increase conversion rates by like 20 to 25%.
So Dominic, this would be a great strategy for your clients. And I've talked about this before, but I'll bring it up again. So they get that highlight piece, right, where they're positioned as the expert on, say, TV, right? Let's just use TV for example, right? So that's what I would say is like the very front end, okay? There's like a 4-pillar system that we use for advertising where the first bucket is typically a tip-based, solving problems, giving solutions, right? It's adding value first, right? So that would fall into that first bucket because it's designed to position you as the authority in your topic, right? Or in your niche, right? Then serve that up as a video view campaign, like you mentioned. And then after they watch 50% or more of that video, then the next video should be what we call philosophy, which is where that expert would maybe film 5 to 10 videos on the different philosophies that they have of how they operate their business or their life, right? So for example, one of my philosophies is Kaizen, right? Constant improvement. And I can talk about Kaizen in my personal life. I can talk about Kaizen in my business. I can talk about Kaizen as it relates to running campaigns, right? It's easy to do, right? So that would be the second bucket. Then what happens is, so while they have that credibility piece on, TV, now they have more philosophy, like what fuels them, what drives them, how do they think and operate, right? Another one would be like my principle of earning the right to make an offer. That's a philosophy that I have, right? And so people never see that second bucket of philosophy until they've seen that first piece, right? And in your case, you already have them producing this content on TV, which is great because it positions them as authority. Second's philosophy. Then the third is a day in the life of that person, right? So that might be, for me, it might be a day in the life here at the studio, right? Or it may be, I might be out in my food forest with my kids, right? Or I might be fishing with my son, right? Or I might be on a hike, right? But it's like a day in the life. Maybe it's I'm speaking in an event and I'm showing the behind the scenes and talking before I go up on stage or talking after I'm on stage, right? So that's the third bucket. And then the fourth bucket is the call to action ads, which would be for application, for low ticket funnels, right? To register for a webinar or a challenge, right? What the beauty about it is that the first 3 buckets are all based on video view campaigns, right? So it's cheap traffic. Only 5% of your budget actually goes to the call to action ads. Okay, 5 to 10 is call to action ads, which is your most expensive traffic. But what's great about this formula is it's number one, it's for cold traffic, right? And we're not talking about warm traffic. We're talking about cold people that don't know, like, and trust you. So think about it just psychologically. When they see you on TV and giving value, then they see your philosophy, right? For me, they see that, like, I'm a faith-based person, right? Like, plays a big role in my life and also in business, right? So I connect the two. Then they see the next video of, like, what my life looks like and a day in my life with my kids and my wife. And then they see the call to action ad, right? What most people do is they go straight, even on a basic level, they go straight to ad, right? Like, they want to go straight to application, or they want to go straight to book sale, or they want to, and they're going from cold to, like, hot traffic strategy, and then they wonder, why is my ad cost so high, right? Why does it cost me so much to acquire leads or buyers, right? Now, at least your model of what you're capturing, even if they only served that, signature talk piece, whether it's on stage or TV or a podcast, right, with someone that's, influential, video view ad campaign with the call to action ad is going to produce a better result. But I would encourage everyone listening to go through that 4-part framework, because it's going to warm up your audience so that they're ready to see an ad, right? And your costs will just plummet. Like, the cost to acquire leads and buyers will just plummet, which is the objective of everyone, right? Like, no one wants to spend more than they need to when it comes to advertising.
Yeah. And this content, we like to call it, thumb-stopping creative, especially with those high-level, high-credibility news segments, because not many people are doing them.
Right.
And often, when we first engage with a client, they say, "Oh my goodness, you're like one of the best kept secrets we didn't know about." And that's the same for many of the founders and leaders that we work with. And so you don't want to be the best kept secret. We want to be telling our story in the best way. Sure. And to your point, the most economical way as well. So I think there's a lot of potential with this approach.
Yeah. Okay. What else? What else can I pour into at the moment?
Yeah. Well, and I guess, so we have some clients where they're brand new to TV, they're brand new to digital marketing. What advice would you give for them? Because, they have to get started somewhere, but just being on TV once, 3 or even 6 times isn't enough.
Right.
And so what advice would you give to them about jumping in, being, as pragmatic as possible and leveraging this amazing footage that we're securing for them?
Yeah. So I would say that the most foundational things that they would need or want, because you don't want to get on TV and then have nowhere for people to go, right? So you want to be able to capture that opportunity. And so I would say at the bare bones basic level is, like, you want to have, like, a main website, right? And then have some type of application funnel or process that people can work with you, right? Whether it's coaching or consulting or services or whatever it might be, right? Like, those are the basic fundamentals. And then have your pixels placed before you go on TV, right? Have your Google pixel, have your Facebook pixel, have your ad roll pixel. Like, have that stuff placed before you go on TV, because you want to capture all that traffic that's going to hit your site from that episode, right? More advanced than that, I'd have lower ticket funnels, a book funnel or lower ticket funnels that people can get more, nurtured into your brand and into your sequence and into your expertise, right? But the basics would be, the main website, get the pixels placed, have your social media properly dialed in, right? So, because people are going to go from the TV episode, they're going to go to your website and check out what you're doing. They might go to social first, check out what you're doing, right? And I would encourage, if you're going to, make the most of the opportunity of that TV placement, right? At least have a good representation of who you are, what you do, who you serve on your socials and your main website, right? So those are the bare bones basic things that I would recommend, and have something to build your list, have something maybe even just for free, like a PDF where you're giving away some value. That would be, like, the most fundamental basic ththings that I would recommend.
Yeah. And then lastly, this question comes up a lot, and I'm sure you're getting asked this question as well, is just leveraging AI in the most pragmatic way as possible for especially some of the newer clientele that we work with.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of AI tools, right? You have ChatGPT, you have Claude, you have Grok, which is outpacing most of them these days. But I would say, as an entrepreneur, you want to be ahead of the curve, not behind the curve or behind the 8 ball. So I would encourage you to, really invest the time, energy, and attention to really learn about AI. At least know the capabilities and possibilities of AI and start playing with it. I mean, AI for me is a great source of inspiration, content generation, ideation, fleshing out offers and ideas. I mean, AI is an incredible tool. To not be using it would be crazy, in my opinion. So I would just, if there's an event that's coming up about AI, I would be there, right? But there's so many cool things that you can use AI for. There was an event I was at a couple months ago, and the guy went from 90 employees down to 2, and he has a tech operator and he has a AI operator. So he went from 90 down to 2 because he's fully, heavily invested in using AI for his business. So that'd be my encouragement for entrepreneurs that are listening is learn as much as you can about AI. Put yourself in events, masterminds, get around people that are using it on a day-to-day basis because AI is here to stay and it's changing business as we know it. That's for sure.
Yep. Well, and just to add to that as well, I think there's just huge potential, isn't there, to monetize not just AI, but just video content in general. And I think traditionally, public relations, which is the realm that we started our business in, and then marketing were two very, very separate industries. But now what we're seeing is there is a definitive path to taking traditional public relations and then monetizing it with a clear defined ROI, which wasn't possible in the past. And I think that's really, really exciting. And the strategies that you've mentioned, Bryan, I think are really crucial to doing that.
Yeah, with the media stuff, you should fully leverage that to your strengths, right? To your advantage. Because, we're living in a world where trust is in an all-time low. And so what we're seeing is that there's a huge trajectory of podcasts and alternative media. And I would say, capture that and then disseminate across platforms, right?
Yeah.
Leverage that one piece, right? And that one content piece, you go on 15-minute segment on TV. I mean, you can chop that up and repurpose it into social content, into advertising content, and then you can just put it everywhere, right? Don't let it die on the media, right? Use it to your advantage because it will give you a leg up. It's kind of like being an Amazon best-selling author. It's like, well, that's great, but if nobody knows about it, then what good is it, right? So leverage it, use it. So love what you're doing, man. Keep doing it, and when you're ready to scale with paid ads, let me know. All right, Dominic.
Well, thanks for having me, Bryan.
Yep, thank you. Good to see you, man.
You too. You too. Bye.
All right. Now we're going to bring in our special guest. We have the next guest is Mandy Keene. And Mandy and I met years ago now. It's probably been close to 9 or 10 years. And Mandy and I met in Russell Brunson's Inner Circle Mastermind. And she was a coach for the community of Russell's Inner Circle. And so I'm excited to have her on. She has an expertise that I'll let her share that's different and unique than what I do and how I serve others with regards to marketing and selling and advertising online. Mandy, her background is, as I said, she'll share that in a few moments here as she's getting prepared to jump on here any minute. So, Mandy, how are you?
Hey, hello. So good.
Awesome. Well, it's great to see you.
Thank you.
It's been a little while.
It's great to be. Yes.
So Mandy, tell me what's new. What's new? What are you, passionate about right now?
Oh, Brian. Well, first off, thank you for having me. It's so good to see you. I am passionate about inspiring entrepreneurs to have a deeper understanding of who they are.
Love it.
Just like yourself, they're so driven and ambitious and brilliant. And I love working with ambitious entrepreneurs. And there's so much magic that happens when they are brave enough to slow down. I know those words are not their favorite to hear, but to slow down and to know more about who they are.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I started my journey in personal development, which opened this whole world up for me, and so I know how important it is to dive deeper on, that question of who are we and why are we here and all of those things. So tell me, like, what is something that's like crushing it for you right now? Like, what are you finding that's working really well for you, for your brand, for those that you serve?
One of my favorite tools that you're very familiar with is assessments. So, understanding personality. If I can share that the combination, it's so funny, Brian. I've been really humbled with the combining assessments has been working really well. So, the software that we have at understandingpersonality.com of combining like DISC and the values and Myers-Briggs and Enneagram and combining them all and being able to look at, what archetype are you? Because what I found is that like someone, let's say like our mutual friend Russell, who's a very, very high D, high I, he's got a little bit of an S, right? He's very high utility, very driven ROI baby, but he's so introverted.
Yeah.
And like the Mandy before would have been, oh, you're extroverted because you're a 99D and you're an 88I. And he's actually this introverted feeler because of his Myers-Briggs.
Yeah.
And so it's like, and then you look at his strengths and it's just putting it all together, it creates this really interesting archetype where I'm able to have a deeper conversation with a client that much quicker. And it's so much fun. It's so much fun.
Yeah. So tell me about the platform. So you've taken all of these different assessments and like mashed it together.
Yeah. So we've taken, in my opinion, the best assessments. So like the top 6. So we got DISC, we got values because you got to know what drives you. We got Myers-Briggs, 16 personalities, and then we got Enneagram, which I love Enneagram because it goes so deep. And then we got strengths, which they call themselves Clifton Strengths Finder, which is one of my favorites for hiring. And then love languages. And
nice.
So we combine all. Yeah.
That's super unique. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how?
Yeah, it's so powerful to
on an
have that
on an
job.
application level, I would imagine people are using the platform in hiring, right? Also in self-reflection, right? So it's like part self-reflection,
Yes.
part team building.
Yes. It's powerful for hiring. It's powerful for team building. I always like to give this disclaimer, like, don't have it be the only tool for hiring.
Right.
We still want to use the other tools, but it's
Yeah.
so powerful for hiring. It's amazing how when I hear like someone for a position that's, let's say, sales, and they're not just a low D, but they're like super strategic, very introverted. I'm like, do they know themselves? Like they would hate sales. They would hate this.
Yeah.
Or like an admin or an operations job. It's like really task oriented and they have no executing strengths and they're not detail oriented and they're not, I'm like, you would hate this. Like, it's like not only, here's what's fascinating that I found, Bryan, about human beings is that anybody could do anything for a short period of time. I think that's where we get confused is because our school system, has taught us to be resilient, really, not well-rounded, but resilient. Like we've learned to adapt and we've learned to be, I literally use like little figurines in my coaching. Like I literally use when I'm coaching clients, like this is like, you're not like, are you a golden retriever? Are you a lion? Because to make it be obvious that we are all these different archetypes. And so we have learned to adapt to being things that we're not. And so that's where we get confused. Like there's some people who can sell, but it's really not where they shine, or they can do operations, but it's not really where they shine. And if they could give themselves a shot and a chance to be where they would naturally shine,
right?
Oh, their life would be so much easier. They would actually make a lot more money.
Totally. So you really help people to find like what makes them shine, and then help them to focus in on those things rather than being the jack of all trades, wearing all the hats, like, or doing something that's just like they shouldn't even be wearing this hat, but they've been told that they need to wear that hat.
Yes.
Is that true? Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
That's awesome. That's incredible. And then I would imagine also you have people that are coaches that use it to profile their clients to help better guide their coaching process.
I don't know how coaches not use assessments. I don't know how. It's like being a chiropractor and not using x-rays. Like I don't know how coaches not use it, because it's such a powerful tool in really being able to get out of the story and not being able to get caught in the story of the client.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been doing this for decades and I still catch myself getting seduced in a client's story. And I'm like, oh man, that was such a good story. I got caught up in it. I'm like, okay.
Sucked in.
So yes.
So,
it's easy to do.
So for you, like what's your number one method for acquisition for the platform?
It's right now it's podcast interviews. It's just talk about it. Yeah.
Nice.
Getting the word out, conversations. Yeah. And it's, and people are just naturally referring and talking about it. And it's been, funny enough, it's been as a coach, it's been my number one way of actually getting clients, because most of us coaches have a personality and an archetype that's usually not the best, as you could probably anticipate, with being marketers or salespeople.
Right.
What was funny is when I did the training, we did one day at the headquarters, and we had about 50 of the inner circle members there. And I had, I had an expert in Myers-Briggs, an expert in Enneagram and strengths. And whenever they were like, where are my INFJs? And I was like, whoop, whoop. I was the only one, Bryan. Like, where's my Enneagram 9? Whoop. So it just showed that I say that because most people who are like coaches, we're a different type of animal. We're a different type of archetype than like a hardcore marketer. And it's not better or worse than, again, this is why I have my little animals. We're a different animal. We're a different archetype. And so personality assessments are a great way to attract clients.
Yeah.
While we're ourselves.
Well, I would also say it's also good for like someone like you to align yourself with marketers, right? So there's like a compliment to get the message out there in a bigger way, right? So you can stay in your lane and the marketer can stay in their lane, right? And then together you can make more. Like I talked about that earlier in the show of like how partnerships can really help expand your brand and your business and make more impact, right? And it sounds like that would be a better suit for you rather than like you putting on the marketing hat and like being the spokesperson of the brand. You know, does that make sense?
Yes, that's exactly what
And I guess
Russell
you
and
kind
I
of did do
talked
that
about.
with Russell, right? Like Russell's involvement. I don't know how deep it is with the platform, but I would imagine you did that a little bit.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Like if you watch the webinar that we did, it's really funny because like we did a webinar where he interviews me, and he does the pitch,
Right,
and
right.
he interviews because like that's not he's the master
That's
at
not your
that,
thing.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like that's his
That's
thing.
not my
That's his
thing. So
wheelhouse.
it's like,
Yeah.
yes, I'm gonna bet when I got Russell. So
Yeah.
and I'm able to stay. I love how you say that. I'm able to stay in my lane.
That's awesome. Now, how are you, I always like to ask this question, like, how are you leveraging AI, in your business, right? To like take it to the next level, or are you using AI? Probably not on the platform side, but maybe you are.
To be dead honest with you, I think we could leverage it more.
Yeah.
We're not tapping into the potential. It's so funny because I gave a talk at Stephen and Marley had an event, and I just feel like I've just scratched the surface,
Yeah.
because I talked about one of the things I've been doing in my coaching is helping clients like really lean into their shadow. You've probably heard of like shadow work and like facing your fears.
Yeah.
And so I'll ask AI questions like, tell me how you would coach an Enneagram 3 to face their shadow, right? And so I'll ask questions like that and I'll have them like tell me what does ChatGPT say back.
Nice.
So I've done things like that, but I know there's so much more that I don't know that we could be benefiting from.
Yeah. I think, there's a thing called the fascination advantage. I'm sure you know of it because you're into assessments, right? But Sally Hogshead, the
Oh,
whole,
yeah, I've heard of, yes, yeah.
so it was
I'm not
like,
an expert on it, but
I love assessments. It's obviously not integrated into your platform, but like what was cool is like this is like 10 years ago. I had a Christian men's mastermind called Lion Chasers that you remember. And
Yeah.
it was, we had like 12, 14 dudes, like all Christians. And so we had all of the guys do the fascination. Your platform wasn't around, So we had all the guys
It's okay.
do this
It's okay,
assessment, right? And we got to learn so much more about each person in the group. It was it was so valuable. Everyone just did the test, spit out the report, and then we uploaded it all to a platform that we could all collaborate with. And it just helped us understand each other a lot deeper. Like, I think that's all masterminds should be using something like your platform to understand each other better, right? Like, have you done that?
Yeah.
Like, have you worked? I mean, you probably have with Inner Circle because you're very connected with Russell. But has it been like I was in Inner Circle for a while, but I haven't been in there in recent years since your platform's been, live. But has there been a push within Inner Circle to like have everyone do it and then share it with everyone in the group so like they can learn more about each other?
Yes, no, there has. There needs to be more. There has. You made me think of one of the things Russell had me give a talk in Mexico on the love languages to the kids.
Oh,
And
nice.
yeah, and one of the things that I shared, how like when you give a talk and you're kind of surprised with the feedback that people keep repeating back to you that they got from it. And one of the things that they said that they really enjoyed was I kept saying, the more you know about someone, the more you tend to love them. So like in your men's group, like you notice how you were able to go deeper and you're able to bond because you knew more about each other.
That's right.
And I also find the people, so I've done a couple of like with people's teams, and it's so fun to do it in people's teams. I
Yeah.
love doing like small groups because And I also like to do like adding some humor and
Yeah.
some lighthearted because people, it's very vulnerable. It's very
Right.
vulnerable. I mean, we're so conditioned to compare and we're like, oh, I wish I had Brian's strengths, or I wish I was like this, or
Sure.
right. And when we do it in groups, what it does is it takes away the shame where we realize, oh, that's why she never smiles and laughs at my jokes. That's her personality.
Right.
Okay, I was making a story that she didn't like me, right?
Yeah.
Or that's why it's so serious, or that's why it's like it starts to take away all these stories that we're making up about people, about us, that really aren't true. And assessments start like kind of shining the light on the truth, and then looking at really what gives you energy. That's one of my favorite things is like, it's so in teams, it's when you're living in your zone of genius, as you say, like staying in your lane, it gives you energy. Like when
Totally.
I did admin, I'd never been so tired. I felt like I was on Ambien all day. Like it was just so draining.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand because I didn't know who it was.
Yeah, I think it'd be great for other masterminds to adopt, right? Because it just like breaks barriers and brings people to like really understand each other on a deeper level, right? And I'd love to take my kids through. I'm like, now you got me thinking. I'm like, oh, I should have my kids go through this, even though they're little.
Right?
They're really young.
Yeah. Oh, your kids. It's like, it's so amazing. Like I knew you before you had kids, Brian. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy. Yeah. Now they're 5, 3, and 1, so they're
Oh,
they're littles. But I mean, I think my daughter could probably go through it. We'd have to go like walk. We'd have to walk her through it, obviously, like guide her through the
yeah.
process. But it'd be really
Yes.
fun to do. Even just the love languages. I think that one's a little bit more is a little easier for kids to digest.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and there is like, I could even send you the one that I did in Mexico for kids, like, and just starting to have like asking questions and paying attention to what she values. Because it's like being able to enter their world and know
Yeah.
it's so important.
I mean, I didn't even discover love languages until I was like in my mid 20s. And I broke up with a girl that I was dating at the time for 3 years, and like we were very serious. And then I read the book and did the assessment. And I was like, oh wow, like our love languages were completely disconnected, and that's probably why it fell apart. It's like I wished I would have learned that earlier, you know.
Right.
But all things
It's
work
painful.
together. You know, all things work together. They worked out like
Yeah.
as they
Now
should.
you're with your soulmate.
Now I'm with Stephanie, which is great. The other thing that you might want to consider too, and maybe you have, but like tying all of different assessments into like a book, and then having the book be a driver into the platform.
Oh, I have a book, Understanding Personality.
Oh, nice. You have a book. Awesome.
Yes, understanding personality. We have it. That's part of our launch. It's so funny, Brian. You'll get a kick out of this. And it's written for you, Heidi's. It's
Nice.
definitely a book because it's bada bing, bada boom on each assessment. Because like when Russell first proposed to me to write on each assessment, I'm like, this is gonna be like a 1,500-page book.
Yeah.
Russell, are you kidding me? And he's like, no, this is what I want. I want it to be where you can go to it and I could know, what does this mean to be a Heidi? What does this mean to be a Hi? And, and what does this mean to have this result for Myers-Briggs? So, yes.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. Yeah, because I know Sally, she uses that book as like a huge driver to the assessment, and then the assessment to the continuity. So the book is like, she'll go on stages or she'll go on podcasts, and then she'll promote the book, and then the free assessment then leads into the back end.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, when do you launch?
We are very, very close. There's not an exact date yet, but we're getting closer, and it's very exciting.
Awesome.
Understanding personality. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're close.
Yes.
Awesome. That's great. I can't wait to get a copy.
Thank you, Brian. Well, you can actually go to understandingpersonality.com now, and you could get the PDF.
Oh, okay. But I'm a tangible guy. I like, I like to have my hands on
I
it.
can hook you up.
Yeah.
I'll hook you up, Bryan.
Okay.
You're part of the fam.
I like to have, I like physical stuff, So,
Yes,
well,
I'm the same way.
well,
I'm
Mandy,
the same.
thank you so much for coming on the show. And where can people learn more about your platform and you, really?
Thank you, Bryan. It's been a blast. It's good to see you again. Please give Stephanie my love and your 3 pumpkins. They can go to understandingpersonality.com.
Awesome. Awesome. Perfect. All right. Thanks, Mandy. Have a great day.
Thank you, Bryan. Take care. Bye.
All right. All right. So that's a wrap, my friend. So I hope you gleaned some insights into the hot seat session with Dominic. If you love personal development like I do, go check out Mandy's platform. Rather than doing this assessment and that assessment and this assessment and that assessment, she's got it all in one place. And she's a great human. I've known her for, like I said, close to a decade, and just an awesome human being. So if you love personal development like I do, it's always great to learn more about yourself. And it's something I'm excited to take my kids through that journey earlier than I had the opportunity to go through that material. And also, I hope you gleaned some insights from Expert Summit. And we're able to take some things away from my time, learning from Anik and other speakers that were there that just provided massive value. If you can ever get yourself to an event like that, I would highly encourage you to take them up on the opportunity. They sold out like 30 days before the event, and the tickets were sold out. So always, if there's an event that you resonate with, that you see other high value people are at, find your way to get there. Because I'll tell you, that's the magic happens in the room. So I'll see you back next week. We'll be back Monday at noon. We'll see you then. What if everything you've been taught about business success is backwards? What if the secret isn't what you do or how you do it? I was at an event with Russell Brunson, and he told a crowd of 5,000 people something that changed everything for me. It's not about what or how, but who's in your corner helping you. He said, I didn't build a $120 million a year company by trying to do it all myself. I have a great team who helps me. That's when it clicked. The most successful entrepreneurs don't just have the right strategies or tactics. They have the right people in their corner and on their team. You see, after building over 1,650 funnels generating over $500 million online, I've become that who for thousands of business owners. Who's in your corner? Visit BryanDulaney.com and let me help you build the business that you've always envisioned. Because the right who changes everything.